The following contains naughty words like boobs, bottom, and crumpet. This program is for mature and immature audiences. Listener discretion advised. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Lusty Literature. I'm Julia Robertson. Today we're going to talk about Donne and Robert Herrick, two English clerics born in the late 1500s, both of whom are renowned for having written countless rude poems. Despite Donne rising up church ranks to become Dean of London St. Paul's Cathedral, whilst Herrick, from his pretty parish in Devon, loved nothing more than writing odes to women's breasts prior to dipping his inky quill into his pot once more to pen a sensible sermon. But before you hear some of their literary work, a confession. When I was a tween, I wrote erotic short stories for the amusement of my classmates at a Christian all-girls school. Explains a lot. I don't find it strange, therefore, that the poets we're discussing today also wrote about sex in an effort to have some fun, whilst employed by the Christian Church in an era of high
fire and brimstone.
The sexy tales I wrote sought to give my classmates and myself a sense of freedom against our school's Victorian attitudes toward girlhood. Miss Robertson, why would you want to play football? Do that, you'll wind up with balls. Study economics, Miss Robertson. The only economics you'll ever need are home economics. Although I don't think you're pretty enough to find yourself a husband. The poems you'll hear today by Donne and Robert Herrick arguably also sought to give readers and friends a sense of freedom against life's tribulations. Albeit none of the poems you're about to hear feature a teacher of your choice like Mrs. Dundas. Names have been changed. Seducing the school handyman, who's currently swaggering round the building's chilly corridors in his paint-streaked overalls reeking of body odour and cigarettes, as though he was Simon Le Bon rocking an elephantic-sized cock. The poet Donne was born in London in 1572, making him 8 years older than William Shakespeare. But even Shakespeare, with his huge imagination, may never have guessed that Donne would join the church, as young Mr. Donne had simply loved fornicating and fighting. Donne, one of the men who warred against the Spanish at the Battle of Cadiz. Whereupon the English sought to destroy a port that then housed the Spanish Navy. John Donne also accompanied the Earl of Essex on a subsequent expedition that sought to seize gold held in the bowels of Spanish galleons at sea. But when that mission went belly up, Donne hung up his cape of derring-do and began work as a private secretary to the Lord Keeper of the Great Seal, a politician whose remit did not include watching over sea mammals. For a while, then, John Donne's life ticked along sensibly until he secretly wed his boss's niece without that boss's permission, resulting in Donne being fired, luckily for him not with a gun, and briefly imprisoned. Donne, now with his political aspirations in tatters, thought, what a career next? And it was King James I of England and VI of Scotland who suggested to Donne, take up holy orders, which Donne did whilst continuing to write dirty poems, like this one, titled, To His Mistress Going to Bed. Come, madam, come. All rest my powers defy until I in labour lie. The foe oft times having the foe in sight is tired with standing, though he never fight. Off with that girdle like heaven's own glistering, but a far fairer world encompassing. And pin that spangled breastplate which you wear, that the eyes of busy fools may be stopped there. Unlace yourself, for that harmonious chime tells me from you that now it is bedtime. Off with that happy busk which I envy, that still can be and still can stand so nigh. Your gown going off such beauteous state reveals, as when from flowery meads the hill shadow steals. Off with that wiry coronet, and show the hairy diadem which on you doth grow. Now off with those shoes, and then safely tread in this love's hallowed temple, this soft bed. In such white robes heaven's angels used to be received by men. Thou, angel, bringest with thee a heaven like Mohammed's paradise. And though ill spirits walk in white, we easily know by this, these angels from an evil sprite. Those set our hairs, but these are flesh upright. License my roving hands, and let them go before, behind, between, above, below. Oh, my America, my new-found land, my kingdom safeliest when with one man manned. My mine of precious stones, my empery, how blessed am I in this discovering thee. To enter in these bonds is to be free. Then where my hand is set, my seal shall be. Full nakedness, all joys are due to thee, as souls unbodied, bodies unclothed must be to taste whole joys. Gems which you women use are like Atlanta's balls, cast in men's views, that when a fool's eye lighteth on a gem, his earthly soul may covet theirs, not them. Like pictures, or like books, gay coverings made for laymen, are all women thus arrayed. Themselves are mystic books, which only we, whom their imputed grace will dignify, must see revealed. Then since that I may know her, as liberally as to a midwife, show thyself, cast all, yea, this white linen, hence there is no pendants due to innocence, to teach thee I am naked first. Why then, what needest thou have more covering than a man? John Donne, in that poem, proffers supernatural advice to men. If a ghost comes near you, he explains, your hair will stand on end. But if it's an angel, you'll get an erection. Something well known to Victoria's Secret marketeers who, roughly 400 years after that poem was written, put wings onto their lingerie models, sending many a boy into the family bathroom with his mother's sticky catalogue. John Donne also wrote in that poem, "Oh, my America, my newfound land." And fun fact, at the Battle of Cadiz, Donne fought alongside Sir Walter Raleigh, famed for having organised expeditions to the then New World. Plus, for all that poem's complex imagery, Donne renowned for being a metaphysical poet, its ending basically says, "Lass, get your kit off. I've given you all these sexy words and that to seduce you, and well, look at me on the bed. I'm already naked." However, Donne, in addition to his rude poems, also wrote spectacular sermons. Not unexpected, considering his great-great-uncle had been Sir Thomas More, writer of Utopia, as well as having been England's former Lord High Chancellor under King Henry VIII, prior to the King ordering his execution. Here's a snippet now from one of John Donne's sermons that later the novelist Ernest Hemingway used a little bit from for one of his famous book titles. No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less. As well as if a promontory were, as well as any manner of thy friends or of thine own were. Any man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. Whilst John Donne went on to have 10 children with his wife, I said how he loved to fornicate, Robert Herrick remained a bachelor throughout his long life. Yet both of these highly educated clerics adored writing risque poems. Robert Herrick penning over 2,000 of them, albeit many of his poems were short. Robert Herrick, prior to joining the church, studied at Cambridge University. And it was along the somnolent banks of the River Cam he fell in love with the writing of Ben Jonson, the satirical playwright famed for his masterwork, The Alchemist. Indeed, Herrick became so enamoured with Jonson's wit with words, he sent the playwright some of his own poems, in the hope, arguably, that Jonson might write back. I don't know if he did. But here's one of Herrick's poems for us to enjoy, titled Upon Julia's Clothes. When as in silks my Julia goes, Then methinks, how sweetly flows the liquefaction of her clothes. Next, when I cast mine eyes and see that brave vibration each way free, oh, how that glittering taketh me. Here's another quick poem by Herrick, titled Upon Julia's Breasts. Display thy breasts, my Julia. There, let me behold that circummortal purity, between whose glories there my lips I'll lay ravished in that fair Via Lactea. Fun fact. Via Lactea translated can mean Milk Street. And Robert Herrick, when born in the late 1500s, grew up near an actual Milk Street, making the previous poem a pun on his birthplace. Milk Street, located in the neighbourhood of Cheapside, London, renowned for produce markets selling goodies like honey and milk. Yet Cheapside also had public houses in which, amazing fact, when Herrick was a wee lad, William Shakespeare drank in. Now for today's final poem by Robert Herrick, titled Delight in Disorder. A sweet disorder in the dress kindles and clothes a wantonness. A lawn about the shoulders thrown into a fine distraction. An erring lace, which here and there enthralls the crimson stomacher. A cuff, neglectful, and thereby ribbons to flow confusedly. A winning wave, deserving note in the tempestuous petticoat. A careless shoestring, in whose tie I see a wild civility. Do more bewitch me than when art is too precise in every part. Thank you for listening to Lusty Literature. Next time, we'll talk about Jonathan Swift, the Anglo-Irish satirist famed for his novel Gulliver's Travels. Yet Jonathan Swift also wrote rude poems, one of which you'll get to hear. Goodbye.